This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
So it's been said that if you really want to live a fruitful life, one that's fulfilling, less challenges in your life, you need this thing called balance. And often heard too that your body is amazing. It's an amazing machine, mentally, physically. It can do so much, heal itself in so many different ways if your body is in balance. How do you get there? We're going to talk about that. At least that's our starting point. And she is somebody that gets people in balance mentally all the time. As a licensed clinical social worker and also founder and clinical director at Mindful State Therapy Services, they offer all different types of therapy to help move your life forward. Karan Turnquist is back with us. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. Loving that we're digging into this. I kind of think it's fundamental in terms of living the life you want to live, but a lot of times we forget about it. We don't realize how important this thing called balance is, right?
You know, I think it's easy to avoid for other reasons too, right? Like, I think everyone fundamentally will say, well, yeah, like, of course I want balance. But sometimes to bring balance, it's complicated. And I think that there's a lot of reasons why it's kind of scary sometimes too, or difficult. So I think there's so many layered reasons why it's a struggle, I guess, is what I wanted to say, because I think we all want it. But yeah.
Do you think that many of us are afraid to even confront it for fear of realizing that, oh my gosh, I know I'm way out of balance, but I don't want to deal with it. And now I got to now see it in front of me, how my life is a little off. Everything, things aren't really aligning in my life, but I need to confront it. Like, let's talk about some of those things that need to be in balance for life to be as best as it can be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's define balance. Balance, this is how I would define it. The ability to adjust and respond to my life in a way that keeps me steady over time.
I hear that loud and clear. And I believe that also translates to all the things in your life, even getting enough sleep, the right type of nutrition, proper hydration, the right relationships, minimizing the stress in your life, all of it, even self-care time. Make sure that you're doing some of that, grounding yourself, whether it's a massage, walk in the woods, whatever it may be. All of these things play a role in I call it the wheel of life. And if one of your wheels is out of balance on your car, what's going to happen? Car's not going to run well. It's going to be bumping all over the place.
And oftentimes, if you want, the car analogy is a really good one with tires, because something that we have to do with cars over time is balancing our tires, changing the wheels around. And we all know what happens. Our alignment comes off in a car. The one tire will wear faster, and now you got to replace all four. And it's so interesting because that's a great metaphor you just pulled out. And our lives and our bodies are like that too.
Now, when we talk about that thing called alignment, how can we define that? To be better in alignment with life in general, things around us.
Yeah, I think of alignment as my inner truth. It's our choices and our energy are all moving in the same direction. And I also add in my own life, I think about it in terms of what is my integrity and my intention, and is it in line with that, coalescing with it, so that when I make choices, decisions, even personally, they sit well and fit well in my life.
I'm going to share something. Somebody said to me recently, and that was, they said, you quit things easily. And I know what they're referring to, two different situations where I was connected to them in some regards. And I said, thank you for saying that, but I disagree with you. I'm not quitting things easily. I'm now realizing that some things that I'm involved with don't support my higher purpose. And you may start something and then realize, that's not what I thought it was going to be, and that's not in alignment with who I am and what my goals are. So instead of taking 6 months, a year, of which, by the way, I did last year on 2 projects, knowing that they weren't really aligning, but I was like, let me just keep going along with it. Maybe it'll change, but I knew it wouldn't. And then I ended them, and it was all good. It all worked out. But now I look at it as same thing with the alignment thing. If it doesn't align with who I am and where I want to go in the direction, I just bail on it sooner because it's a waste of time. It doesn't support, and it's not that I'm just quit. I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to throw in the towel unless it doesn't make sense. And sometimes you start something and realize, hopefully soon after, that it's not what you thought it was going to be. So why waste time with it? So I got to give that as an example, as those things that this person referred to didn't align with who I am now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And you know what you just thought made me think of? So when you think about balance keeps us steady, but alignment gives us direction. Or in your case, a chance to pivot. I need to pivot because that's not the direction, or this is a pathway I need to go down. And that's powerful. And maybe we do realize it when we really see something. It takes time to really see something, or else we're misjudging it, which in your case, got into that project. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm really seeing this with clarity. This isn't my path. And that's powerful.
100%. 100%. And really what it is an evolution of the journey I'm on, where now I realize these things sooner. So instead of, going with it, where we know the answer, like even the 2 projects I referred to that I spent more time on, I hung in there, it was like connections, partnerships that, just wasn't feeling right. I was like, well, I don't want to rock the boat. Not anymore. Life's too short. If it doesn't work, then you move on. But I guess once you're better aligned with yourself, you see those things sooner. And that can be even relationships with people. You start hanging out with somebody, some time goes on, you're like, oh, that's not the way I thought it was going to be, and nothing wrong with that. So maybe you put them in a different section, different category. So now you're not spending as much time putting as much stock in them, and then you can move on to something else.
Yeah, I think like what you're talking about is like being able to sit in balance, and because to have clarity on something,
Yeah.
we really have to be able to see it through a lens that's not foggy with our emotions or our ego or whatever. It's more like our soul coalescing in, seeing it. And so, then when we're coping with life, we're moving through it with that clarity and energy behind us, which then makes it stronger when, wow, I have to leave this behind. And
Mm.
I think going back to the start of our conversation, that's not easy for so many reasons, especially with relationships, work, so many things
So many
that,
things.
yes, yes, it's not that easy, and so that's why I don't want everyone listening, it's not about being perfect all the time. It's about just being honest with ourselves and doing our best to find areas and even small moments, even to start. 1% is better than zero because none of us are perfectly aligned all the time. None
Yeah.
of us are perfectly balanced all the time. But it helps bring things. It feels a lot better even after you have to leave something behind. Most people that have done that can say, yeah, that was really hard, but boy, I felt relief
Mm-hmm.
after. You know what I mean? And then and it brings peace.
So there's an important word right there, peace.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you talk about alignment, is that also kind of hand in hand with maybe authenticity?
I would say so.
Mm,
Um,
same.
it's neat to think about that. Actually, just to make this real, can you take your example and speak to how you deciding I can't do this, how did that reflect back to that's not me, that's not authentically me?
Are you asking me like how I
Yeah,
made
you do that
decisions?
because I think real examples are always better.
Okay. There was one situation where I started going to the gym with someone, and it's all good, getting back into it, digging in. We're on a regular basis, going earlier in the morning. I adapted to his schedule. It was all good, except he likes to talk about other people and put them down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not me. And I see that, he wants to do it to help them, but at the same time, it's also boosting his ego to put others down. And I found myself feeling drained after going to the gym, and it wasn't from the weights. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I just, and I politely said, you talk a lot at the gym, and I'm there to work out. I got limited time. I want to get in, get it done, feel good about what I did. So that didn't align with me. I don't want to, talk about other people like that. I don't need to. We got to focus on one thing, and that's what we're at the gym for. That's just one example, but yeah, I think it just comes back to just be more aware. Like, what do you want? How's it feeling? How is it? That was feeling heavy on me. That was feeling heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was really honestly feeling the energy of just like, oh, when I walked out of the gym, like, oh, yeah, not like, yeah, I did a lot. That was good. I did
Because
more
you are
rep.
something was countering the endorphins. Like you had cortisol spike, which actually speaking to that biologically, if I have a cortisol spike because of a negative interaction, which can happen with people, that works against what I'm trying to do in the first place, which is muscle building or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But what you just said is how I see authenticity, and I think a lot of people do when they research this, is it authenticity is what connects balance and alignment. So it's the practice of being honest with ourselves and expressing that honestly in how we live.
Mhm.
Thus, it connects that. And that is real, strong, grounded alignment, maybe rooted alignment, if you think about it.
It took
Powerful.
me a long
Yeah.
time to figure stuff out, but and also people pleasing. So the old
Yeah.
me might say, well, they need a partner to work out with, so I'll be that person. And despite the negative talking, blah 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 blah, and I am getting a workout. Nah, nah, nah. That's I'm a reformed people pleaser. Let that go. Um, which is, I
Yeah.
guess, maybe another. Yeah, but when we talk about alignment, alignment and balance, people pleasing. We're all many of us do that, right?
It's what I when you say that, a lot of people are walking because everyone's walking around with some sort of trauma list, honestly, even if it's whatever it is, it's about the experience and how it affected me, right? And so what you're talking about is a trauma response, a lot of times, even societal, where we can get into these fight, flight, freeze, fawn, collapse modes and trying to survive whatever it is by a way our nervous system is wired. So if I'm wired to overfunction, overwork, just be pleasing or try to be too giving, it's a trauma response, and it doesn't generally land in a place where it feels good, or it burns us out over time and then
Mm.
pulls us out of an alignment that maybe is our truth or the way we want to be or how our life wants to be, relationships. It's tricky.
It really is. Well,
Yeah.
what can we do to be better in balance? Is it really a product of taking inventory of your life? Kind of seeing where you're at.
I start out how I see it now is I see it in a triangle. And I do this with myself in my journal. And I don't assess it every day, but there's days when I really need to sit down and sit myself down. I think of it this way. So I see it as if we imagine a triangle, and my mind, my body, my spirit, and my soul in the middle. And I try to assess it that way on whatever the topic is, because we're never going to be perfect. But can I get it as close as I possibly can to that balance? Because then that's honoring me authentically and connecting everything. if that makes sense. And anyone could fit that into whatever religion they have, honestly, because spirit is just what do I believe in, and anything can fit that category because it really is mental, physical, to the heart, whatever higher power we believe in, even if it's science, it doesn't matter. But like having it be balanced and then pulling it in, and then is our soul speaking, or the light inside of us, or our higher self, however people define it, what's it trying to say? And a lot of times that helps us sit with something. It's just not always easy when it's something like maybe we're being abused in a relationship. Maybe our job is burning us out, but it pays all the bills and we're a single parent. There's a lot of factors. And that's why it's scary to sit with sometimes. People might feel overwhelmed, but is how I kind of sit with it.
Well, I think it goes back to what we mentioned before is sometimes you don't want to sit with it because you know the answer.
Yep.
You know the answer. And sometimes the answer is not one that you want to hear. For example, that job is burning you out.
Yep.
Find another one or take the steps to find another one. Mom always said, best time to look for a job is when you have one. So there's that, but that means that you can, but change is scary. Or being in a relationship that really doesn't support you, but you're in it just because either you don't want to be alone, there's financial considerations, et cetera, but you know that's making your life out of balance, but you're afraid to confront it. And I'm not minimizing anything. I totally understand it, but that's what it is.
And a lot of people walking through my door in therapy, whether it be holistic life coaching or with, mental health therapy, that's where we start. How I do good assessments is I have a great conversation for 2 to 3 sessions, maybe even 1 session. And that's the areas I want to know about. Right. And so then slowly to prepare someone, generally, I always end up doing trauma work with them and then help them integrate into life. Those are the areas we start with at their pace, because we might be able to say, okay, I want to start walking every day. That's an easy one. But then sitting with this person's hurting me in my life, but I'm scared to be alone. Well, that's going to take some time then, because it's very common human condition and actually a really good survival condition that none of us want to be alone. But we don't want to be making decisions out of fear either, because we could end up with someone that hurts us. But yes.
I think I know the answer to this, but is one of the main reasons that our lives are out of balance because there's trauma and it needs to be worked on?
I think honestly, well, yes, I would say so. And I think it gets real complicated because a lot of people coming in have really early childhood wounds, pre-verbal wounds, 0 to 10 years old wounds. And then, the average gap research wise, and when someone has a symptom and actually gets treatment, is 14 to 16 years.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
That's powerful. So in the research, and it might be worse now, this is old stats, but the average age from when I first have a mental health symptom to when I actually get treatment is 14 to 16 years. So if I'm 5 years old having a symptom, the average amount of time means I'm 19 or 20 by the time I get help. So we got this stuff, and that relates to our nervous system and how it's wired. And then that compounds as an adult until we get the work done, which we can totally get the work done. I work with people all the time, and we take care of the early childhood and we rewire our nervous systems. So it's possible, but that's what compounds. You're right. Yes.
Well, even you gave an example of somebody says, you know what, I need to get more exercise. I need to start walking, whatever it may be. But let's say they're not doing it on a regular basis. They derail, but they want to. They know that that's part of the balance that might be missing out of their life, but they're not doing it. They're not sticking to it. Why? Maybe it's because of trauma in their life. They don't feel they deserve to. They have a fear of failing. Maybe they had an issue with exercise when they were a kid. They didn't pick for dodgeball, and that made a mark on them when it comes to any kind of physical activity. So they pull back from it, although they want to do it, but there's something holding them back. I mean, just giving one example of how trauma could get in the way of walking every day, intentionally doing it every day.
Absolutely. That's a classic one, actually. The age study showed that with Kaiser Permanente when he studied middle-aged women and why they could lose weight, but they couldn't sustain it. And a lot of times it relates back to parts where part of us won't let us do it because whoa. And a real example of this, I have a client, he's 52 and he's overcoming covert narcissism, which is amazing. And we're working through shame and things. Well, he early on described to me that he's like, well, part of me was so mad because I went through a period where I worked out and I was doing really well and I was so proud of myself. I looked in the mirror, he said, and I could see it. I was like, wow, I'm here. But then what happened is I started going out with my friends. And then I really liked how people were responding to me. And I didn't want to cheat. I didn't want to step out. But part of me got carried away. And he ended up having a few affairs and then one long-term affair, which turned into something that he's in a separation now. So when we did the parts work, we were able to identify there was like a manager inside that said, and I'm going to say this on here because this is his language. Hells no, you're not doing that again because look what you did last time. And it prevented him from going down to his gym in his house to work out every day. And he would come in, he'd be like, Karen, I can't do it. and we had to work it out like, hey, wait a minute. Let's look at the parts. Let's look what they're trying to do. They're not trying to hurt you. They just don't want you going off the rails again. And then now he's not shaming himself about it. But yes.
What a great example. And so real. And then I've heard examples too of women who were abused earlier in life and now have weight on them. And they're doing that so that they're not as, I'm trying to put this in the best way, as attractive in their minds, and therefore they may not get abused again. It's part of their trauma. You follow what I'm saying?
Well, it's like a layer of stuff between me and other people so they can't hurt me anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have been young, fit, everything was great. There was abuse there. Later in life, you're not that, to fend off in a way that the perception of this could happen again. And you don't even know you're doing it, but it goes back to the trauma. Deep talk today, but very insightful. And this is what's going on in our minds within the parts of our personality. You can work with people pretty much anywhere, meet them where they are in their journey and do it virtually. How do we find you?
www.mindfulstatetherapyservices.com, and all my connection and email and all that stuff is on the website. Yeah.
I love the name of that, Mindful State. That's what you need to be in if you want balance, I do believe.
The 7th try in New York State allowed that name, and I'm glad because I was like, dude, come on, people, like, I'm trying to send a message here.
Message received very well. Yes, Karen, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.